Today's gospel is the gospel of the widow's mite, which surely is a gospel reading that tells us something about smallness in contrast to bigness. Human beings tend to be impressed by scale, by display, for instance, or more recently by the sheer extent of celebrity. But why do we suppose that scale and significance go together? G.K. Chesterton once remarked that if size is to be the criterion, then presumably a whale is a better candidate than a man to be in the image of God, in the words of Scripture. If so, he suggested, it must be a rather impressionist image. An excellent draftsman himself, he wasn't impressed by the smudges created by the French Impressionists. The great apologist spent a lot of time attacking the idea that what natural science has learned about the scale of the universe makes human beings dwindle into insignificance. This is, Chesterton said, a vulgar notion, like trying to infer the value of someone's personality from the size of their bank balance. And vulgarity is a vice. It's superficiality in how we judge things. The vulgar are vicious in that they're too lazy to practice the insight that would take them deeper into evaluating reality. The tiniest actions, this is the point, the tiniest actions can be enormous with significance. Thus, in the story of the widow's mite, today's gospel, the gift of a couple of the smallest coins in circulation can be heroic, sacrificial, enough to make someone a hero or a saint, even though her name is lost to history, like the names of most of the true heroes and saints of this world. Same thing is true of the Old Testament companion story, the prophet Elijah and the widow of Zarephath. Another widow, another prophet. The widow gives Elijah a share in her very last handful of meal and oil. And that act of hers releases an enormous power from God. The meal and oil are replenished until that famine and drought in 9th century Israel had passed. Now, St. Luke, to return to him, locates the incident of the widow's gift of her mite immediately before the last scenes of his gospel, the discourse on the end of all things, and then the passion narrative that follows. And I think that may well be a cue to the reader. A cue for what? A cue for this. Let not the passion narrative deceive you. Limited though the canvas on which it paints is, it is the real key to the end of the world. To all but a few contemporaries, the death of the Messiah was a quite insignificant little event. The last moments of a crucified criminal dying unnoticed by secular historians in an obscure corner of the empire. Might it even have warranted a 2-line notice in the Jerusalem Gazette? Only a little thing then, compared with media coverage of celebrity lives. And yet, as Christians we say, and this is our fundamental confession of faith, that little thing, that seemingly insignificant event, was filled with a power to which no limits can be set, either in heaven or on earth.